Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening. Welcome to another segment of The Outer Realm. We are broadcasting on the United Public Radio Network 105.3 from the beautiful city of New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee who have been a part of our journey since day one. Also, big thank you to Dr. Snick, Justin Snicker, the sonic surgeon, for his contribution of his music and his voice for our intro and outro. You can find him anywhere that good music can be found. He is, of course, an award-winning composer of Halloween, horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music. So check him out because, of course, we are getting into spooky season, so it's just like perfect. Also, any of the Outer Realm artwork, big thank you to Steve McGinnis for his wonderful creativity. Today is a pre-record, so we are, entertaining our guests from the UK, and you guys are probably really familiar with Barry Fitzgerald. I think you may have known him from Ghost Hunters International. And Brian Allan, he's got things going on in his own right. The list probably too long to mention in such a short intro, but you'll love them both, and you'll get to know them both today. They're going to be discussing their new book, The Deception of Gods and Men. And all I can tell you, as I have been reading this book, and I did put something up on the Facebook page because all I could say is, wow. I mean, we read a lot of books because we have so many people that come on who are authors, but I have to say this time, I can really say, wow. Not that I'm not in awe of a lot of what people write, because the creativity is always just phenomenal. But this stuff is stuff that I've thought of for the longest time, where you have peers that kind of look at you and go, okay, sure. So to see it all in print, it's like, and some, and some. It's sort of the gift that keeps on giving. Anyway, this evening, Amelia and I will be manning the chat rooms, of course, as always. You'll have to get on all of the regular YouTube channels and all of the regular Facebook pages. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, we're actually going to be on LinkedIn tonight for the network. Apparently there's a crowd of about 28,000 people there. So we're just brand new to StreamYard. They are allowing going over to LinkedIn. So for those of you who are on LinkedIn, check it out. And it won't be under the Outer Realm. It'll be under Joe Montaldo, United Public Radio, if I'm not mistaken. And if he doesn't have that clear, we'll have to make sure he does, so you guys can all find it. So, Bubbles, how's it going?
Hello, good. How are you?
Well, we'll leave that right there. But yeah, we'll just leave that right there. And always good. Just,
we
throw in a little chaos
sometimes.
In there.
That's all I can say. But
yeah, there's still a little chaos in there, a little bit to just shake things up, rattle, and roll.
Yeah. We're being reminded why we're here. I have a new headset on today, so forgive me if I smack it a few times or click it with my glasses, because I'm not used to this. And
okay.
This is, I found out that this is the one that goes with the damn audio. It's been a long journey for a girl who is not tech smart. So let me tell you.
Learn.
Oh my goodness. I miss my brothers. It's moments like this. I'm like crying and calling, like, what do I do? This thing keeps screeching.
I lost.
Yeah, somebody out there, please.
I know.
I is lost. It's been a journey. I never, even when I sang, I never had to deal with this part of it. So I only know warm, cold tones, and I
Right.
definitely sure as hell recognize a screech when I put it too close to the board. So yeah,
Well, hey, the
but
outer
forgive
realm
me if I'm
is
smacking it. So
the outer realm is about learning on many levels. Maybe
yeah.
we'll just leave that one right there too, and
Oh my
go
gosh.
from there.
It
You know,
is. It
the guys
is.
are going to be coming on shortly. Do we
Okay.
want to maybe get their bios?
Yeah, let's give a brief
Give
introduction for
short-
those of you who don't know him. And I am shocked you must be new to the paranormal world, but it is such a privilege today for us and such an honor. I watched him many years ago on television, and I have so much respect for him. We're welcoming author Barry Fitzgerald, who has over 30 years experience within the world of the supernatural, in which he is known very well, by the way, and has taken him to new levels of intrigue and mystery. Appearing on Ghost Hunters International, and Destination Truth. He headed a team on the American NBC owned Sci Fi Network and explored a quandary of the paranormal and supernatural phenomenon around the globe. He was recognized for his work in the paranormal world and received the award of Paranormal TV Personality of the Year in 2016 and 2018 from PSW based in Netherlands. Barry's research evolved and took him out of his comfort zone and into Irish myth, legend, and folklore that has led him into the shadowy depths of the underworld, not only in Ireland, but around the globe, uncovering shocking similarities between cultural encounters with the unknown. And our next super amazing, just as amazing guest, Brian Allan, as a result of a very, early close encounter with the otherworld, Brian Allan has had a lifelong interest in all kinds of paranormal. Excuse me, of course, this has to happen right now. Excuse me. My goodness. Brian has had a lifelong interest in all kinds of paranormal and occult phenomena. Although he had initially confined his interest in the subject to a passive role, involving study via books, etc., it is only in the past 45 years or so that he actually became involved in an active, hands-on basis. During this period of time, he has witnessed at firsthand some genuinely remarkable phenomenon and has also met some truly remarkable and talented people. So far, he has written 12 books. So far, wow. All dealing with various aspects of paranormal in one way or another, and is currently the editor-in-chief, of the well-known international online publication, Phenomena Magazine. He has also been privileged to receive Strange Phenomena Investigations, prestigious Tartan Skull Award for services to ufology and the paranormal in Scotland. All back issues of Phenomena Magazine, which is absolutely free, can be accessed on his website, phenomenamagazine.co.uk, which is also posted on our Facebook page.
Here we go.
So if you didn't catch that, don't worry. Hello, guys. Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
The sun,
Hi, guys.
it's just coming through the window at this time of the evening.
I can't hear or see.
Okay, so who are you having a hard time hearing, Amelia?
Both of them. And
Okay.
Barry, I can't see because he's got that bright sunlight on his face. Yeah, all I see, it looks like your foot is in front of your face, but I know it's the sun.
Okay, well, yeah, you sound like you're
Muffled.
underwater a little bit,
Yeah.
Barry.
How is the sound with me then? Is it all
Excellent
clear?
now. Oh, the accent.
Yeah,
Yes.
crystal
Beautiful.
clear.
Beautiful.
There we go. Just play around with that for a wee bit. Okay.
There we go.
All
Now,
right.
That should change my audio.
Yeah,
and
you're no
That's
longer
better.
underwater. Thank you,
Check
Barry.
it out.
That's great.
Big time.
as well.
Oh,
So,
there we go.
there I am. Yes.
Outstanding. I have to say that I was explaining earlier. We read a lot of books because we have so many people coming on. I could not get my face out of your book. I just it was just like one after another, and honestly, it's all things that I've thought about
Yes.
You know, when you're in the field for a long time, it's been a couple of decades for me.
Yeah.
Just it's all stuff you know or hypothetically know, but it's so different when you see it in writing when somebody else is talking about it, because it's some of that stuff that your peers go, "What's wrong with you?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're
Yeah.
just like, "Shut up! What's wrong with you?" It's just,
Yeah.
you know. So thank you for the book, because like, thank you for writing it. I think a lot of people, I think serious researchers will appreciate it for what it is and see just how connected everything is within the field, especially of ufology and the paranormal. But
Oh yeah.
it's
Oh yeah.
it's
Yeah.
everything else, and how far back it goes, and how much we really are under the thumb of something.
Yeah.
Without getting me kicked off YouTube, I'm not going to be the one to say it, but you know, as you wrote the book. So why don't we just start off with you guys as to your respective roles in what brought you to this book. Whoever wants to start, you'll find we're really laid back, and Amelia and I will jump in every now and then.
Yeah, well, okay, I can take a little bit of a header into this. On
Okay.
account, I'm a lot older than Barry. Yeah. Well, I had my first encounter with, I'm saying this in inverted commas, with something, aged about 2.5, 3 years old. And Barry knows about the story; he's heard it enough times. But I saw this thing standing, and I was like, I'll tell you how young I was. I was still lying in a cot, okay? I would be 2 years old, about there, just over. And I'm looking out through the cot, the bars of the cot. And in the bedroom at the time, my father, he was a musician. He had a baby grand piano, and it was in my bedroom, as it happens. It was the only place he had room for it. And between the cot and the baby grand piano, there was this 4 foot tall humanoid standing, watching me. It had its arms folded. It was wearing a one-piece green coverall, not a coverall, sorry, like a body stocking, a bodysuit. Okay. I remember that the toes that curled up, and round the belt, round the waist, was what looked like a belt, but in retrospect, it wasn't. It was a device of some kind, because where the buckle should have been, there was a device. Okay. Now this thing, it was standing watching me. It wasn't offered me any threat. And I closed my eyes, opened them, closed my eyes, opened them, and I couldn't see it. But the thing was, I couldn't see its face, because the blankets were just over my face a little bit, and where its chin was where the blanket started. But I got the impression it didn't offer me any threats, and it was still there. And as kids do, just went back to sleep again. And when I woke up, it had gone. And it was only, I suppose, in the last 10, 15, 20 years, I realised it was an ET. Because in that same room, a matter of months later, now we're talking long before UFOs were thought. I was born in 1944. It was long before Roswell and stuff, you know, and UFOs and stuff and the like. And the traditional shape of a UFO, as you know, is a disc, okay, the traditional disc-shaped UFO. I had this powerful dream. It was like a waking dream. Yeah, I guess you could call it a waking dream. And I saw this thing, and I knew it was for me. I knew this object had come for me, this huge UFO, and it was there. And that's when I put two and two together and linked this thing that I'd seen with this UFO, this spacecraft. And ever since then, I've had this burning desire to make contact. And I've told Barry this as well, that I know I'm going to see this thing again, and I'm going to see it relatively shortly. I get the feeling I'm going to see this thing again, or something very like it. So that's what got me into it. And as Amelia said in her intro, initially I just did this stuff. I read about it by books and stuff on TV when TV arrived, because don't forget I was born before there was TV in general. So yeah.
No
So
way.
oh yeah, God
No
bless
way.
you. Yeah, God bless you. Thank you.
No.
No, but really, honestly, that I guess it's only in the last 45, 50 years or so that I got involved hands-on So, like, I've seen ghosts, I've seen poltergeist effects, I've seen all sorts of stuff. I've spoken to witches, I've spoken to Satanists, if you want. Spoken, not and got not. I would not get involved because I've had the situation, and Barry, I've no doubt will have been in the same box, the same situation. When you mess with this stuff, it tends to latch onto you, and you bring it home with you. And I've had things in the house a couple of times that I've had to get rid of. In fact, the last time I cleansed the house, shortly after that, I had a medium friend visited the house. They came in the door and they stopped, and they said that this is the most psychically neutral house they've ever been in, was the way they put it, because I really got stuck into it the last time I cleansed the house properly. And this is as clean a house as you're going to get that way. But yeah, so whatever, guys, that's what got me into it. I met Barry through a mutual friend. I met Barry, and I found out that we had most things in common, most points of view are in common, and we thought it would eventually be a good idea if we wrote a book. And I found out that he was starting to write the one, the Deceptions of Gods and Men, and we talked about it. And at first, I'm going to be honest with us, and I said, nah, I can't see it, mate. Then all of a sudden, I said, damn it, he's right. The guy's right. Yeah. So, yeah. Wow. So, and we both contributed chapters, and and the whole thing just went together quite well. So there you go.
I need to apologize. There are 14 books, because Barry corrected me. I just caught the private chat right now. So there are 14 books, and I'm guessing many more to come.
Yeah. Well, well, I'm 76, 77 years of age, nearly 78.
Way.
So really.
You're such a liar.
Yeah, no, God bless you again. But really, if the books are going to come out, they better come out pretty quick.
Amelia, don't put even. You'll be there all day.
I could listen to you both for like years. Trust me.
Well, I have to say that Brian and I, of course, have a strong Celtic heritage, and we always laugh and call each other the Celtic Brotherhood. And he was right. I started the book from all my experiences and what I was seeing in the field, what I was experiencing, and how I was observing what was unfolding and what was being presented to me as well, I have to say. And to see this common thread that weaved its way through much of the fringe research fields, that intrigued me. What is actually going on here? And with GHI, I had the opportunity to travel the world and to meet different cultures and spiritual belief systems. And yet what I was seeing were people who were having the same experiences as we were on the islands back in the Northern Hemisphere. And that intrigued me. I began wondering, what on earth are they encountering that's the same as we're encountering? Surely if this is a locked-in tribal culture, it should be separated, it should be different, it should have evolved differently. And only for the external mask, the way we interpret it, everything else was the same. And that intrigued me as to what is this? And that led me in this course to put pen to paper. And it was a struggle, I have to say, for both Brian and I to put the book together, because it kept, every time we were doing work to it, we would have sent it to each other to review and check out to see what needed streamlined. But every time it kept getting messed up. Digitally, something was going on, and there was a real strong, it felt like there was a real strong interference hindering this book release. But there's one sure thing, and I'm very, very determined when I get the bit between my teeth. And we kept at it until we finally we released it there.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment, and I think as Barry will agree with me, that since the book was released, we keep saying to each other, that should be in the book, that should be in the book, this should be. We keep finding stuff all over the place that should really be in the book. But it's like Amelia said earlier on as well, that the whole subject of default, it may have been yourself, Michelle, I'm not sure. Yeah. But the whole subject of the UFOs and the paranormal, there's too many links. It's like a spider's web. The whole thing is interlinked. And the thing that kind of annoys me, to be fair, is when you get guys, especially in ufology, that all they can see is the nuts and bolts approach to UFOs, because they're not nuts and bolts, these things. So, there's more to it than that. Yeah, okay. They're coming from Alpha Centauri or whatever, or the other side of the galaxy or other galaxies, or they're interdimensional or whatever. But I get the impression that these things are not necessarily solid. These things might be even sentient in their own right. I mean, who knows? Because we're in a subject where literally anything is possible. But the other side of that coin is you've got to keep checks and balances. Otherwise, you go off in all directions, and you get into areas that are frankly just nonsense. And you start making it up as you go along. So you've got to maintain a certain levels of checks and balances to make sense of it for your own sanity, if nothing else.
I agree. I think you have people in ufology who believe one thing. You have the paranormal who strictly something else. I think media has a big part to play in it also, with people. I know I've filmed a lot. And I always joke about how the whole world must think I run around screaming demon, because out of every other thing I have ever said on television, it's always ended up on the cutting room floor. Yeah. It's a demon. It's a demon. Oh,
yeah, that's ratings
to the point where I've pretty much have stopped filming, because it just seems to be all anybody wants to talk about. They don't realize, but this is what people see. They don't you have mainstream media, they have their gimmicks, or they have the formula for that year, and everybody follows along. Let's face it, they're not going to put this kind of stuff out. They don't want anybody to know this. It's a stretch to get people just to see the connection from, UFOs and extraterrestrials to any form of the paranormal. So you guys really went out on a limb with this, and I love how you go way back to the Shining Ones and fairies, because it's just so all there if people just really bother to study, go back, follow the folklore and the history.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a lot of value in what our ancestors have left us, and I think from our perspective, it's damaging in one part when we have someone who comes along, hardened skeptic, and says, none of this is absolutely real. It's all nonsense. And within their short life of 30, 40 years, they have taken thousands of years of history and folklore and our ancestral encounters with this phenomenon and just thrown it to the winds because they haven't had the experience. And I think that is exceptionally narrow-minded on their part. And the pigeonholing of particular phenomena has also, as Brian has pointed out, has been a real problem for us to gain the information, because this idea that 20 years ago we've seen this within ufology, for instance, if not a little longer, where Bigfoot appeared, UFO appeared with Bigfoot, it was thrown out because they don't appear together. They are not connected because it didn't fit into the pigeonhole. But they are very much connected, and there is that particular commonality that waves its way through many of the phenomena and its appearances.
It's unusual. Well, not unusual. I heard you mention, Michelle, you mentioned demons. Yeah. Well,
Harry really likes those.
Yeah, we have a little bit of a connection with them. Just a little.
We happen to know a guy called Joe Stewart. He lives up Michigan way. And Joe is a functioning demonologist. He hunts these things down. And at first, when I got to know the guy, we have a Friday night group that meets on Zoom, and Joe's one of the members. And it's an there's only about 14 or 15 of us, but we're all from all over the place. The UK, Ireland, this guy across here is a member, and the USA and all sorts of stuff. But Joe is a functioning demonologist, and when this guy gets talking, your jaw just drops. Because if he's, I mean, I've said to his face that I don't think you're dealing with demons, Joe. I think you're dealing with something, but it's not demons. And the other thing I find is almost funny is the fact that you'll get people who set themselves up, I'm a demonologist. If these SOBs saw a demon, they'd run screaming out the room, out the house, because demons, assuming they are what they claim to be, you're delving into another whole realm of the supernatural, because this isn't paranormal, this is supernatural, quite something else altogether. But demons are, in fact, and I should watch what I'm saying here, because one of the books I wrote, which was, I think that was the Dark Messiah. There's actually a saying attached to this, which is, battle not with monsters lest you become a monster. And if you gaze into the abyss gazes also into you. And in that book, the Dark Messiah, I was gazing into the abyss and someone saw me looking, and it came right back out at me. Because I'd finished that part of the manuscript, and I just hit the full stop on the keyboard, and it went cold in a microsecond from the inside out, bang, and I went, oh no, not again, because I pulled one in, and that caused some hassle. That caused some hassle in the house, and that was the second major cleansing I had to do to get it out.
It's scary once you've let them in, even even if you are aware of it, it's still really scary.
How they get in too.
How they get in is so confusing. And what we've talked about just recently, Michelle and I, on actually several times, even on air, that we really don't know. Are they from their own, realm? Are they from the Bible? Are they aliens that we're looking at?
Yeah, it's easier, I think, to categorize them as ET than anything biblical, because once you go down that road, that's scary stuff. It really is. Yeah.
I think each particular mask that we use to interpret them has its own weight of problems. Which is why Brian and I decided that we weren't going to label them. Instead, we called them they or them.
They or them, yeah.
Because that robs them of their power at some level. And it works for this period in time. But in themselves, they can be troublesome, and it can be exceptionally easy to draw them in. And this is something that a lot of mainstream researchers don't really talk about. The idea of, for instance, a voice recorder, during a paranormal investigation. If we just use the voice recorder, I realize I'm using a brick here, but if we just use a voice recorder and say, "Is there anyone there? Can you come forward to me?"
Invitation.
You have opened the doorway.
We found our new 2 hosts.
I know.
We did. We are all in
I have
alignment.
somebody there. We're sharing a brain.
We're sharing a brain for sure. We've been saying this for all 300 shows.
Yeah.
But the problem here is that we're not closing the door. And when you've got a group of people who are going out, who are inexperienced, and they're going out for, pardon my English, but they're going out for shits and giggles. That in itself, they're going out. They may not have had an experience that particular night, but they've left the door open.
Yeah,
that's right.
So
Absolutely.
at what point, 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months down the line, does something come through?
Oh wow, absolutely.
And even when we have the intent there to close the door, how do we know we've closed it?
Not everybody it's easier to open that door than it is to close it. People anybody can take.
You're spot on there, because when you look at the likes of people sitting in a circle meditating in the night sky and beaming lights up into the sky to try and make contact with them above, they're initiating contact, and the very fact that they engage with that allows the contact to follow them back. So there's a certain amount of responsibility that we have to take upon ourselves. That
I agree.
Okay, I understand that this has happened because I did this.
Right. It doesn't even take that much. I could just say, "No, I want this," or my intention is I want this, or you can open doors. I mean, you have a phone now. Any child can grab an app that's for
Sure,
some degree
sure,
of communication.
sure,
People,
sure.
you can open a door with a thought, but you can't. So collective thought, like what you're talking about, Barry, everybody sitting there together, putting their intention
Mhm.
together.
Yeah, like a
You know,
seance.
closing, you need to be like, you have to be somewhat versed to properly close any door, I feel. I don't know, unless you have that collective consciousness or that collective group putting their intention towards doing it. Maybe, just maybe, the power of so many people
Wow.
could accomplish that. But there's doors being opened up every day, everywhere. And if you happen to be in a location that's already, like, let's go with these power spots, sacred places that are
Mhm.
known to have portals. Let's face it, the ancients built all over them, and this is something that people deliberately go out and seek these sort of places out, and not always for good intent.
No.
I think it's worth. I can sort of share a secret because I know you guys won't tell anyone, and there's
We
nobody
won't.
listening.
There's only
No,
going to be about 3 million people listening tonight. That's
that's not a
Maybe
okay.
problem.
maybe a few more, but not much more
Maybe,
than that.
yeah.
Don't worry.
That's okay. Well, I can share this because as Barry knows this story well, that I know where there is a portal. I know how it functions. I know how to make it function, and I made it function in 2006. Okay,
Oh,
I know where this thing is, and I'll tell you where it is. I won't tell you what it is, but I'll tell you where it is. It's inside Roslyn Chapel. Okay,
yeah, bad Ben to Rosalind.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
inside the chapel. Well, okay, I'll tell you. I'll even tell you where it is because you won't be good. Okay, I'll tell you where it is.
Okay, just do it. I say do
Okay,
it. Right.
okay. If you go into the chapel and you face the east end of the chapel, where up where the apprentice pillar is, okay.
Yes, yes,
As you know, at the back of the chapel in the east end, there are 3 altars. Okay, there are
yes.
actually 4, but one's above the stairs going down into the crypt. But the one on the left-hand side is the St. Matthew altar, and right in front of that is where the portal is. And the secret on how to activate it is also in the chapel, if you know what you're looking for. Because if you've actually stood in the lady chapel and you look up into the ceiling, you'll see all these cubes. You know what I'm talking about?
I do. Yes.
Well, all these cubes carry patterns, and I believe, people that know about the subject believe that Sir William Sinclair, when he built the chapel, included the secret in those cubes because they are made in the same design as a Chladni pattern. I think they're called. I think it was Ernst Chladni was the physicist who came up with this back in the 1750s. It's called cymatics now. But if you create a musical note and you vibrate a surface with something on it, it will take up a shape. Okay, and so when Sir William wanted to activate this doorway, this portal, the frequencies to do it, he put into these shapes that you see up in the ceiling, because each one of these represents a musical note, okay, or sequence of notes. By a sheer fluke, and I swear to God, this was a fluke. A guy that I'd working with him at the time, he got it in a wonder. And in 2005, we went into the 2006, we went into the chapel, and we had permission to do this. They won't let us anywhere near it now, sadly, or the chapel authorities. But we created the note on a laptop, using a laptop. And unbeknownst to us, a guy who was with a group went down into the crypt. And he was an acoustic therapist. And he started toning, okay? So we've got the laptop going in the chapel, we've got this guy down in the crypt, 2 different tones, and we're sort of standing looking at each other. Then all of a sudden the chapel kicked on off a tone on its own, completely on its own. It was slightly less loud than the other 2. Then a few seconds later, a 4th tone kicked off, another tone. So the chapel was creating 2 tones entirely based on what we were doing. But at any rate, we realised that one of the mediums that was with us, she turned and she said, "Look, there's something happening this over here, and this is the St. Matthew altar." And the place went, as you stood in there, you went stone cold. I mean, bitter cold to the bone, and it was bang. It was that cold. You could stand right in the middle and put your hands out like that, and you could feel as if you were going through a barrier, and it was warmer than outside. You came back inside. Now, this is the same place where in 1998 I was lifted off my feet in this chapel. Yeah, I was actually lifted. I'm not. I wasn't floating about in midair or anything.
No, so
Yeah, but my arms started drifting up from my sides like this. I mean, I couldn't keep them down. I got my wife to stand there. I didn't tell her anything about it, and her arms started drifting up. It was as if something had its hand, like something lifted under my heels, and it was lifting me up off the floor.
wow.
And that's when we realised there was something very special about this place. And we believe that we partially opened it in 2006 by using that particular tone. Now we've tried to get back in again, but the chapel authorities are very leery of this sort of thing because they don't want stuff that's going to frighten the paying customers away. You know.
No, see, now when I go back, I'm gonna be trying to like jump in the portal. Thanks.
You're
for
taking
that.
me with you. You're taking me with you. We're going together.
Yeah.
And being the medium in the RV, I'm going to help you.
Thank you.
But we need
There we
these two
go.
guys. Somebody has to decipher all of those
That's it.
symbols.
Someone's got to pull me
You
out.
don't. You don't need to because I've got the musical notes that are required.
Frequency and vibration, right? Tesla
Yeah.
said the same thing.
Exactly.
The
Exactly.
key to the universe is
Frequency and
frequencies
vibration.
and
yeah.
vibration, and
Yeah,
that shows you that even back then they knew, and
Oh,
it goes
so
even
what you knew.
further.
They knew
In
more
fact-
than we do.
One of the mediums who was with us, she described it as a spiritual machine. That's what she described the chapel as, a spiritual machine. So,
A lot of the ancient structures obviously went a long way in designing the cathedrals and chapels of what we see of medieval Europe.
Yes.
But you're right. Frequency, of course, is a huge thing. Sunlight, the terahertz from the sunlight was a key factor. These chambers were orientated toward either the setting sun or the rising sun. Vibration, vocal vibration was also another key point. And when we go back far enough, and I gotta say this, and a lot of people won't like this, when we go back pre-Bible, and a way back into thousands of years, we find those key factors still there within history.
Yes.
And we also find when we go back into the likes of the Mesopotamian period and pre-Mesopotamian period into the likes of the Eubidian culture, there we were finding the same things in Iraq as what we can identify today, and this all stems through from serpent worship.
Yes.
That's what it is, serpent worship.
Circuit
We
worship.
have been able to push back serpent worship to 70,000 BC from Botswana.
Right.
So, this has a long heritage. It didn't go away. It's just been repackaged. Whether we like it or not,
That's right.
Packaged.
Yeah.
And we're buying it.
Yes. Well, because the I'll say the powers that be, Catholic Church. Sorry, did I say that out loud? They know, they knew this stuff. They hoard all of this information. And I'm glad, don't get me wrong, I'm glad that there's a place that it's all in one place. So, so much has been destroyed, so much has been uncovered, and a lot still is hidden. But I'm glad it's there. However, I'm going to pose this question to you. Knowing what you know with the research, and knowing what we have been told, do you think the way things that they've instilled in place, do you think it's the opposite? I know, right? I know, right?
So
come on.
as below as above instead of as above as below.
300 years ago, and we have, and both my Celtic brother, of course, there over in Scotland. We have to be very, very careful because we still remember the burnings here in Europe.
Yeah.
Okay, shh, don't anybody tell.
No one's listening.
But there have been a theory. What if, right down to how the prayers were put. And I'll just say, religion in general, because it's very organized. But right down to how, rites of exorcism, for example. Are they exercising or are they,
Well, a lot was taken. A lot of that particular religious practice was adapted and taken from the oracle traditions,
right?
From Greece and prior to that, moving back into Mesopotamia and things like that. And there we do see, with the use of the stone structures, the mounds, if you like,
Yes.
we do see that particular connection with the female being the oracle,
Goddess worship,
and also the gatekeeper, the entity that gave over the wisdom that came through these stone structures,
right?
took a form of serpentine in appearance.
Right.
So you've got the wisdom coming through into the oracle, who then passes that along to the kings and the priests of the
right.
And usually what we tended to see was that the information that was being passed along during that time was about government. It was about ruling. It was about war. It was about society. It was about how we were to be ruled. And obviously, when you're communicating with something with exceptional access to great wisdom, it always had its price. And that we still see today. In fact, it was interesting to see, and I spoke to Brian about this. We often hear tell of conspiracy theories when we've got the upper echelon of
CIA invented that word, just saying.
Using the doorways of wisdom. And a lot of people will roll the eyes and go, "Oh yeah, here we go again." But I actually have documentation from the Douglas Aeronautics Company.
Oh yeah.
Using their own funds, were using a Ouija board in 1968 to contact aliens to get advanced engine design technology.
So they must have upgraded to a ghost box by now. Then
I would hope so, with a Tesla coil.
Yeah.
Wow.
It has happened and continues to happen. Wow. The problem is that the people now who around the mid-level area who are doing this don't understand what they're communicating with.
No.
Oh boy.
No. And also, while they're doing that, how many of them have, especially the really older, like the old families, who actually have access to the occult knowledge that goes back, like it goes back like thousands of years.
Oh yeah, of course it does.
I mean, no wonder we're in the pickle that we're in. We're not made privy to any of that stuff.
No.
That is insanity. I wonder, the conspiracy theorists right now out there are going to be listening to this and thinking, that's why they market these boards to 8-year-olds.
Give it to an 8-year-old.
Actually, people that buy these boards and think it's a game, they're crazy. And I think I think they should be licensed, these things, because they are so dangerous. Incidentally, Amelia, what you just mentioned about there is as above, so below, which is one of the original Gnostic truths. That the church actually stole that, and it became in heaven as it is on earth. It's the same. It's the same thing. Means the same thing. But the family viewers, if you want to put it that way, rather than that.
I don't take demons lightly. As you can see, I have a exorcism box behind me from the early 1800s. I have
very serious.
Yeah, and I have crucifix on this side of my office that you can't see. I don't take anything lightly.
No.
I've been in the middle of too many things. So
a lot of folks there, they will look at various different aspects of how to defend themselves. But historically, there was always one key factor which was exceptionally strong through it all. And this is something we see through ufology, into the paranormal, into the world of fairy, and into the Middle Eastern world of the jinn. They're all afraid of iron.
Yep.
Iron.
And when you go back and you look at the Semitic demons of the incubus and succubus, 9 times out of 10 they attacked women more so than men. But they waited until they entered their monthly cycle. Whenever they became
sorry, guys.
And so that was a big thing, that these things preyed and waited until the iron levels within the body were low. So to wear a small, like, who on earth would wear one of these? A small iron amulet around your neck is absolutely exceptional.
Wow, you're gonna have the stocks. I'm gonna go buy stocks.
I was gonna say, I don't think I'm gonna buy stocks
because Barry Fitzgerald said it. So the stock prices on iron are going up.
If I could tell you a little anecdote about the jinn and iron. This is a story. This is only a story that was told to me when I was working in the Middle East. Okay, by a young Saudi guy.
Yeah.
He said that his uncle, he had these chicken coops, we call them chicken houses. Okay, and they were quite small. They were relatively low, and a jinn was manifesting above them, and it was upsetting their laying and all the rest of it. So what the uncle did was, he took a length of iron, and he threw it at this thing that was above the chicken houses, and it just went bang, and it went. So in effect, he grounded it. That's what I think he did. He grounded it and discharged it. So
Wow.
it just
Brilliant.
shows you. Yeah. But incidentally,
Brilliant.
we've been talking here for the best part of 45 minutes. We haven't even mentioned the book yet. So
Oh my gosh.
That's why I was saying in the emails, I think we're going to have to do this again.
Twice.
Yeah,
Just one comment before we continue. I'm going to be making a trip to the building supply right after the show. You can find chunks of iron everywhere. Because one thing I don't have is an iron rosary.
Every corner of the house.
Corner. I'm
You
going to
can't
strip
get
this
it.
baby down.
You have to try and find some antique iron, like an old railway spike or something like that.
Sure.
Oh, that's easy where I live.
I'll send you some.
It's easy where I live. I actually live on the grounds
Everything I have
of
is
the
antique.
War of 1812, so I will have no issues finding it at all.
You see, midnight, Amelia's going to be out there with a little metal detector. Because you're not supposed to take any of that.
It's September tomorrow. It's already dark at 9. I'll be there at 9 o'clock.
Incidentally, what Barry didn't actually mention about the book and them, as he said, we don't give them a name because that's another thing. But it just shows how easy it is to go off the subject with this. I was once told, if you get a ghost in the house, don't give it a name. Never name it. Oh, this is Little John, don't do that. Once you do that, you actually legitimize it being there, and it makes it all harder to get rid of. But that's just an observation. But the thing is that these things, which is what they are,
Yes.
they have no physical shape. Okay, they adopt whatever physical shape is appropriate, or they deem to will be suitable for you to accept them in the setting you're actually seeing them in. So these things exist in a void, and in the void there is literally there is nothing there.
Right.
And they hate it. They hate it like hell. They hate it.
Right.
They need us to legitimize and justify their being, because they want to live in a physical world and in a physical reality where they can interact with stuff.
Right.
And it's all explained in the book how they're actually going to. We think they're actually going to do this, but we'll leave that till later on.
Let's get on to the book then. I thought we were like sort of like buttocks deep in it, but just because there's stuff everywhere. It's an amazing book. So
how deep we're in it?
Trying to behave with the YouTubers, because believe me, I can throw some zingers out there. So we're going to leave it. But why don't we start from the beginning? We start talking about elves and we jump into the Anunnaki. Where do you guys want to start? Because whatever we don't finish, if it works with you guys, we'll pick a date to bring you back, because there's so much information. I really don't want to leave anything out, because it really is. I think anybody who researches should have your freaking book. Just saying.
Yeah.
Oh,
right.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's look at the shining ones to begin with.
Okay.
They're a good starting point, and they're also my nemesis. So the idea that primarily what we have is that this being will appear usually around a rock facade, a rock plateau, a cave system. They're usually within those particular areas. The rocks are a key focal point here for this. And these things then will appear, and they take this, usually the shining imagery around them and things like that. Now, initially, we have to take the first description. We cannot accept what comes along 10 years down the line or 20 years down the line. And usually what tends to happen is that you get your identity, the true identity of that particular entity being them, is within the first 20 seconds. That's the 20-second rule. And what happens at that particular point is that our bodies are responding to the stimulus. So if we don't like what we're seeing, if we don't like what we're sensing, our body engages its fight or flight. If it does like what it's seeing, it doesn't detect a threat. It doesn't react. Now, that is something we have to listen to, and it's the 20-second rule. Now, when that happens, the hair will go up in the back of your neck. You get ready to run. It's your body's response at picking up on the true nature of that particular entity.
Yeah.
Of that
Fight or flight.
Well, exactly, yeah. Now, after the 20 seconds, that can be overridden. So what we tend to see happen is, and this is a theory that I've been working on, is that after the 20 seconds, our brains then start to get pushed into a theta band rhythm.
Mm.
That's where we tend to find a lot more hypnotic suggestion occurs.
Mm.
That is where we get false memory implanted. So we get all of this starting to come through after 20 seconds because that response within our bodies is now being overridden. So the 20-second rule is very, very important. And if we take, for example, the shining one that appeared in Medjugorje in Europe, the children that saw this being whenever it appeared initially, they were frightened stiff. Their bodies were indicating to them, without a shadow of a doubt, this thing is dangerous. But they couldn't move. They were stunned. Their bodies were shut down. So that speaks volumes. Now, when we look at today and we see that every Tuesday, what the world is to interpret as being the shining one is now Our Lady. Every Tuesday she comes and she delivers the messages like a postmistress, and of course the Vatican, of course, and the recent Pope has said absolutely not. This is not Our Lady. She is not a postmistress. And in fact, the church itself in the earlier days stated that Medjugorje was demonic in nature.
Can I cut across you there, Barry, just to back up what you're saying? You'll also find that Lourdes is exactly the same, another encounter with the shining ones, because Lourdes, it's a cave. Okay, so the cave is involved there again. So again, it's a prime example of an encounter with a shining one.
Yeah, and even with Lourdes, we have to remember that in the beginning, when Bridget got to see this thing, initially she called it that thing. She didn't recognize it as being Our Lady.
She knew.
She knew within the first moment. She realized, and every time that she referred to it in the earlier stance, it was that thing. But it was the church that came along and smoothed everything out, and it became Our Lady. Now, Brian and I are aware of this medium friend of ours on the meeting, and from the US as well. And she was in Lourdes, and she was on her knees crying.
Yeah.
She needed to get out because her instincts were screaming at her. This is not what people think this is.
What it claims to be. Yeah.
It's a perfect example of the shining ones. And from my perspective, what we tend to see whenever we went back into the history of the shining ones is that a decade before major outbreaks of war within the 20th century, for instance, 10 years beforehand, we see them making appearances predominantly within the negative magnetic anomalies. That's the places that we tended to find that blood worship was happening.
Really? Wow.
And that goes through all of the wars in the 20th century.
Sure. Yep.
And I was able to track all those particular figures down and put them through the computer and everything else. And we could clearly see that this is not an even Stevens appearance. These things are appearing more so in the negative magnetic anomalies.
Yep.
It sounds a little bit like the whole archonic / demonic thing, like the fetus. War.
Oh yeah.
Generates negative energy. Energy is food. Negative energy is food. It sounds like there's some kind of a connection there. It sounds like
there is, especially whenever you consider that with the release of blood, you tend to get this release of the energy that goes with it. Now, the blood, once it's spilt and is dead, but it's the essence that comes with it at moment of release, of course, is very important because that's already loaded with fear and everything else that's being released onto the ground. Now, in regards to, again, staying in these negative magnetic anomalies where a lot of these things appear, we find that 70% of the world's top suicide locations also appear in negative magnetic anomalies.
Really?
So being drawn to these
Yeah,
areas
yeah.
to end their lives.
It makes sense.
What's pulling them to these particular places? And not only that, but when we consider this idea of blood worship, and we look at 75% of the world ammunition manufacturing and testing facilities also appear in negative magnetic anomalies, we have something which is now being used to spill blood on a level that has never been seen before.
Sure.
That's some heavy food for thought. Like
The thing is that Barry and another friend of ours, a guy called Steve Mira, they've got overlays of these magnetic anomalies which you can drop on any given point on the planet. For example, Skinwalker Ranch, right on the edge of a magnetic anomaly. It's all. I mean, these things are all over the place. And
Sedona.
as far as we believe, again, I can't 100% swear to this, but we believe the US government is well aware of these magnetic anomalies and the effects that they have, and the UFO sightings that are seen on there, and they track them as well, although they say they don't, but they probably do. Yeah.
Can I just interject something? This is on a very small scale, but between where Michelle and I live, there's this, it used to be a waterfall and it dried out. And we live in an area where there's tons and tons of granite and limestone and quartz, and it's called Devil's Punch Bowl. Now, the war was fought on the edge of that, on the cliff and underneath, and there was water, that must have, taken care of a lot of horses and a lot of soldiers at the time. But what's happened a lot over the years is the amount of suicides that happened there, so much so that they erected a cross. I was going to say a crucifix, but it's a cross that is the size of a small building, all in lights. And when you're driving up the mountain to come towards my home, you can see it lit up in the night sky. That's what, when you said that they're drawn, there's other places they can throw themselves off of. I live on a mountain. There are other places. There's bridges. There's everything. This is just a bit eye-opening, because they keep trying to tell us, no, it's just a cross because so-and-so had a company and they put it up there. It's like, no, there's something more to it than this. Otherwise, all the non-Christians would have had that cross torn down by now. So
David Paulides, he was the author of Missing 411.
That's another anomaly.
I love that series.
He happened to mention that a lot of people that were disappearing in places that were connected in title with the devil. And they were always connected with rocks. He said,
provincial parks, right?
All of those, and the national parks, all of those particular groupings of people that had disappeared were disappearing in boulder fields. So again, we're back to the rocks.
And this is called Devil's Punch Bowl. That's what they call it, Devil's Punch Bowl.
Rocks resonate also, right? They hold frequency, memory, because we have a friend who's been on the show. He's in Scotland actually, and his name is Sean Williamson, and he's a sculptor. He's done sculptures for the Sinclair families. He actually is the caretaker of Andrew Sinclair's research, all of it. And I always like to plug him because he's just a good guy. But he basically validated, working with stone, how experiments were done in old cathedrals where they would put a recorder in and they would catch all voices going back. It imprints, right? It holds frequency. So, do you think more and more people come in, this energy, you have to imagine it would be a very powerful release for the essence to leave the physical. That would have to project out somewhere. And is it possible that stone or quartz can hold it?
What you're actually doing is actually promoting the stone tape theory, which is what you're actually saying. I quite believe that. I don't think all stones. I think some kind of stones better than other.
Right.
That I think crystalline stones, where you're more liable to get an electrical charge building up, and that's like a piezoelectric charge. Right. That's I think is more likely to be a more suitable medium, shall we say, for storage. But the stone tape theory, I'm pretty sure it's valid.
They use quartz for Swiss watch movement. People don't believe in quartz or crystals, but yet they're wearing these watches that are being run by them, and they always have.
There was an ancient passage chamber I was in here in Ireland. Now these places were built before the Great Pyramids of Giza. Again, they're stone. They have these dome ceilings, and
Yes.
again, the design of them were on purpose. I'll not get into the design and what they do and everything else, but one particular evening I was up there. It was just following the summer solstice. And I had a video recording inside the chamber because I needed it for a video sequence that I was working on, in which I could record the sun entering the chamber and moving around the chamber as it does in the equinox, solstice. Sorry, and so that was done. But for some reason, and I don't know why I did this, but I also put an audio recorder in there, and I left. Now I was the only one on the mountain. I can confirm that 100%. I was the only one there, and I went up to the top location, which was a good 400 yards away. So I was nowhere near the original place. And I came down, collected everything after I knew that the time had passed, and I left. I was reviewing the video footage, and what I found interesting is that on the audio, as I was listening to it as well, I could hear these huge pillar stones that were used for construction within the chamber were grinding, they were turning on the inside. Now,
Oh my God.
the video wise, nothing was being moved. I couldn't see anything moving, but I could clearly hear these large stones being turned. But shortly after that, there came a beat of a drum. And I thought, what on earth? And it was a clear 2-beat, bum, 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 bum.
Wow.
And I said to myself, I don't know what is going on here, because following the deep beat, there was a slightly higher matching beat. And it was only recently that I discovered that was an echo. Now, that particular echo that was transferring through the air was in a passageway that was 300 feet long. Now, if that doorway was opening, that doorway's length was 300 feet long, because we got the echo through it. It turns out that the people who built those passage chambers also used bell drums to mimic the beat of their gods. Bum, 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 bum.
Wow. Wow.
So again, a doorway was opening, but we weren't there to do it.
So
Something
residual,
was doing it.
like an imprint.
Not even an imprint. I think something else was doing this, because it was starting the moment that the sun hit the chamber.
Oh, real time.
Wow.
time.
Wow.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow, that is
Wow.
wow.
It's fast. That's fascinating.
I have nothing.
Huh. Okay. We'll try to get us back on track now. The book.
Yeah.
The book.
The book.
Otherwise,
Okay.
by the next time you come on, you'll have another book.
By the time we're done this book, we'll be about 3-4 episodes in. We'll be ready for the next book.
We'll be ready for the next one. Yeah.
If I can have a quick plug here.
Yeah,
I've got another book out coming from it's being published by Flying Disc Press as well.
Excellent.
And it's called Book of Secrets, Aliens, Ghosts and Ancient Mysteries. But
Oh, we're gonna have to have you on for
Oh,
that.
you're definitely coming back.
Jesus.
You just nailed that right in.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, plug away, please. I'll have to be on Philip about that. But then we'll have access. Now we're all connected, so it'll be easy just to keep going with you guys.
yeah.
Let's jump into Anunnaki. Because you mention it, and I'm seeing all of this stuff online starting to surface about people who are actually waiting for the return of the Anunnaki. So after reading the book,
that
I'm
a
like,
thing?
yeah, let's address this for everybody
Is that a
watching
thing?
who's waiting patiently for the return of their, So Anunnaki, it's not what people think it is.
No.
These aren't just the ancient gods of or maybe creation in a certain way, but this is not something we would want to see. Is it?
The Anunnaki, we've had problems with the Anunnaki for quite some time. And we also find similar aspects to the name Anunnaki within the United States as well, within the Native American cultures.
Wow.
So we also find their signature there as well. To expect these things to be coming back is well, I say coming back, as if they were here, but they were not here. The deception, the level of deception that these things embrace is massive, absolutely massive. Now, for them, whenever they start losing wane and support of a particular image, they just adapt a new one. And that's exactly what we are seeing through the eons of time. We see this thing change time and time again, sometimes twice in a generation. We will see their appearance change. But again, when we start using these titles, Anunnaki, demon, jinn, fairy, aliens, this is problematic because they're all preloaded. So, and that in itself really begs the question. And I've been struggling over the past week on my hikes there, thinking about this idea that if we put enough effort into believing in something, we can create.
Yeah, like a tulpa.
Exactly, yes. And I love the idea of it. I was always a big supporter of it until I started drawing my focus to it and went, something is not right here. Because if that was the case, when we consider about the idea of us creating from mind, from our wants and our wishes, Christmas we should see a fat man in a suit flying through the sky. And
don't laugh. I have a friend who plays that role, and it's pretty compelling.
He exists.
Of children.
Yes.
Because, they have this beautiful imagination in which, if potential is there, they should have been able to create. But we don't see that.
Right.
The Italians created a witch that brought gifts on January 6th. Just saying, like.
Lesser of two evils, I say. I don't know.
She's not as bad as Krampus, but
No, I mean, I agree. When you look, you just talk about the mind is a powerful thing. It can create anything. You look at how Slender Man came into being. People actually believe this is real. It's as tulpa as the day is long. But
Slender Man is dangerous.
Something gets manifested, So as we move along, let's talk about the Watchers then.
Well, the Watchers and the Anunnaki.
It's confusing. People don't know the difference.
Well, the Watchers and the Anunnaki, I think there's a lot of crossover between the two. Well, the Watchers, if you want to talk about then you go into the fallen angels. You start going down that road again because the Watchers are the fallen angels, or the fallen angels are the Watchers. What you were saying a little earlier on, that we create reality from microsecond to microsecond by being here.
Right.
And it's been demonstrated pretty categorically that at the quantum level, at least, we can affect the action of stuff. We can make things happen at the quantum level just by wishing it to happen, because everything, our bodies, our brains, our minds, the whole thing is interconnected. Some people are better at it than others, and some people can do it without even thinking about it because they don't even know they're doing it. But I do believe that reality is created on a second-by-second basis by the people that happen to be here at the time. But that's probably got nothing to do with what we're talking about. But it just
take it where you want. Take it where you want. We'll keep up.
I think from my particular perspective, when we've got this idea of wanting to make connection, of wanting to examine the phenomena, I don't have a problem with that. And I think whenever I got some emails from folks there down in New Zealand who were saying they loved the book, but it really, what they took from it is that they really shouldn't be doing this. And I said, no, that's not what the book's about. The book is about challenging what's coming through. If something is coming through for your benefit, it will not mind a few questions for clarity. But what we tend to see more times than not is that the moment that we become suspicious of it, whoop, it's gone.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, from my perspective, I've had 30 years in which I was able to watch the phenomena and engage the phenomena, and also have the phenomena engage me, where I could then break that down and watch for the phenomena's weakness. And the moment that was tagged from their perspective, they stopped communicating. They cut off me from that information line. It wasn't the other way around.
Wow.
And so I find that interesting because me of anyone who would, I would quite easily sit in the backyard and look up at the night sky, and say, okay, let's see if we can make something happen here. Nothing happens ever since. Not since my encounter in California, with these particular things, because I didn't do to the letter what they wanted. I was cut off, and I wasn't going to deliver to the letter what they wanted, because they wanted the people that was with me in that group. They wanted them to be left behind and at this location. No, this isn't happening. I'm leaving with them. And we left. And after that particular point, after that experience, I was cut off, because I was not accepting. I wanted clarity, and they weren't giving it.
There's a trade. Yeah.
Yeah, and the thing is, I've had people in our homes, and some of them are scientists here from Europe, who are involved with this particular phenomenon. When they came to dinner to share what they had learned, these things were beating on the wall of the house. Like the walls was 3 feet thick of stone, and they were beating the absolute living hell out of the walls because they didn't want the information being passed along.
Wow.
And that particular night, whenever they had gone home in the middle of the night, it was the worst night's sleep ever. I ended up going outside with the dog. I flung open the back door and stepped out. Beautiful night sky, and all of a sudden, in the sky, boom, this light appeared. And I looked at it. I remember looking at it and thinking, okay, yeah, one's a doozy, but two would be really nice. Boom, the second one appeared.
Oh crap!
And I thought, no, you would really impress me with a third one. Boom, the third one appeared. Now, with that particular moment, I wasn't buying what was coming along. And I said, okay, you've got the two things here. Either you come down and tell me what you want, because I wasn't buying this illusion anymore. Oh, look at this hand while we're not watching the other hand. I wasn't buying that anymore. And I realized what was going on. And I said, okay, come down and tell me what you want, or F off. And fortunately they left. So I never got any questions answered from that point. It seems they're highly offended.
That was easily offended too.
I've left this stream. I've left this stream open. Okay, Brian. Okay, no. Yes, we'll do that, Brian. Okay, he doesn't have a lot of time. I know. Okay, so let me. What would you like to add? Because I know we don't get you as long as we have Barry.
Who, me or Barry?
You.
You're short on time.
Yes. So
okay. It's just that Barry and I we almost operate like a double act here,
right?
Because Barry goes into the technical detail, and I kind of round it out with little anecdotes and stuff that I've seen, and the stuff that Barry and I have done or come across the points we have in common. That and we work very well together, and I think that's one of the reasons that the book seems to have been quite successful. I know there's, because I see what the royalty checks are doing, and they're doing quite well. Thank you. But anyway, guys, I'm so sorry, and
okay.
I'd love to come back and do this again with you.
We will.
Absolutely.
We absolutely will, because there's so much information in there, and I put this just public on one of our channels today, just for, it's sort of a surprise for the subscribers. So there's a couple of questions that are coming up that we can address, and I will be in touch with both of you guys after the show with another date. So Brian, you guys can coordinate which dates work good for the two of you.
No, what's good for Barry is good for me, because we're Celtic brothers, and we
there we go. So that'll be nice and easy.
It's like Michelle and I.
I know, same brain. I like it. Well, we're kind of all sharing a brain right now. There's a weird synchronicity thing going on.
Pretty cool.
So,
yeah.
So no problem. Let me just put these two questions up, and there's three actually, but I'll do these two because it's the same person first, based on what we're talking about with creating.
Yeah, Natalie. Sorry, did you want me to do that?
Yeah, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Natalie asks, actually, if we create things by thought, how do we know what is made up and what is real? That's the question of the decade.
It's simply because you're creating it You're creating it, so it is real. What you're creating is real to you. And it doesn't get any more real than that, because it doesn't matter what you think. If you're creating it, then it's real. So it doesn't matter what you think, it's real.
Very
Right.
cool.
Yeah,
And
That's the way I would see it.
that's a great answer. She also asks, how do we know that, hold on, how do we
These
know
things.
these things aren't just at the same point we are in understanding and pretending to know it all?
Mm.
That's a good point, because
That's
if you,
very good.
yeah, if you're talking about them, and I assume that the lady is talking about them that we're talking about in the book, these things have had access to them, every possible piece of knowledge that mankind ever had or ever knew. They have it stored. It doesn't get thrown away. They know all this stuff. So anytime that they come forward, then they have all this information to hand, because they know it. All their secret. I'm not going to go into what they want us to do for them, because that's one of the cruxes of the book, what they actually want us to do. But there is something that they want us to do to enable them to stay here permanently.
So definitely we don't want to do that. Note to self. Okay. And
Wayne Mallows, hi Wayne, says, what about the word genius? I've heard that it's said to be from having another being helping a person with a project or idea. What are your thoughts on that idea?
that's one of the first questions.
Yeah, that
some of the
goes
stuff
way
we've been
back.
talking about. Yeah, I didn't want
The
to
idea
interrupt.
of genius is derived today. We recognize that as guardian angel. Now, genius in Roman context was always seen as a being, an entity, a wisdom that lived outside of the body. So you could have a good one, you could have a bad one, whatever the case may be. But that genius gave you access to the knowledge of the poets, of storytelling, whatever you were good at. You were always identified as being in connection with your genius. Now, genius, and a lot of people don't like this connection, but genius is derived from genii, the Middle Eastern jinn, so a being of shadow, and then you push back further than that again. So, guardian angels, what are they? Well, they're jinn. If we want to get down into it in its earliest context.
I was going to ask about the angels and the wanderers in the night sky, because
Well,
not
they're
what we
jinn.
think, people.
Well, they're jinn. We need a whole show just for, well, they're jinn. You got me going, what?
That'll be the title.
Could I possibly just give you something to think about to underline all this? One of the earliest interpretations of demon was teacher. Okay?
Yes.
That's something that's well worth thinking about.
That's the first thing they teach you in demonology class. Yeah.
That in itself, Brian, of course, also lends support to genius, because genius.
Yes, of course it does.
Yeah,
of course
and
does.
it was daemon, not demon.
That's right.
Yeah.
The church, pardon the pun, the church demonized the demon. Because the Greek daemon, of course, was something which was also good and positive.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, they changed the name completely. The name and the meaning.
Yeah,
and the meaning, and
they also put the wings on angels, I might add, because they didn't have any originally. But how could they fly without wings? Come on, don't be silly. Anyway, look, guys.
I want wings. Oh, I should be careful what I wish for.
Guys. I've really got to go, guys. I'm so sorry.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I will be in touch, and we'll do this again, just so you can get somewhere in.
And this time I'll make sure it's more open-ended at my side. Sorry about that. Really.
All right.
We'll put Barry on mute.
We'll hold you to that.
Thank you so much.
Okay, God bless. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye,
Good night. Good night. What a doll. Barry, I just want to say one thing before we start going in. You're the reason I stayed watching Ghost Hunters. Just saying. I came in at the episode of The Elemental in Ireland.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
That's very kind to say.
I was just, when Michelle told me you were coming on, I was just thrilled to bits, because I was turning my back on what I was supposed to be doing, and I saw that episode, and it gave new meaning to spiritual work for me. So I just want to thank you for that. I have to find my
station ID. We have to do a sponsor station
yeah, because
ID.
if we don't do this,
Yeah,
we're
we
not
get
going
in
to be on
trouble.
air.
Not that we can't get in trouble on our own, but that would really do it.
Yeah, it's
So,
really bad.
okay.
Okay. You are listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and Amelia Pisano, coming to you live from the beautiful city of New Orleans on 105.3 FM radio. Tonight, joining us, we have Brian Allan and we have Barry Fitzgerald. Stream or listen to our archives on the platform you normally use. And if you're just tuning in, give it a few minutes and catch us. Go to SoundCloud or any platform that you use and just search United Public Radio and then The Outer Realm, and you can find all of our shows and catch up on all of them. And then you can get this one from the beginning rather than starting in the middle when Brian just left. So
Oh, Brian abandoned us.
yeah,
That's okay.
it's okay. He's coming back. Shout
Right.
out and a big thank you to the amazing people at Folgers Coffee for fully sponsoring our show from day one. We love you. We thank you so much. You know we can't do this without you. And also, as just as important and so amazing, a shout out and a huge thank you for our intro and outro to Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, Justin Snicker, award-winning composer and musician. You can find his music on Amazon and Bandcamp, and you can find him on Facebook and Instagram, where he is dropping bits and pieces of his new album just in time for Halloween. So check that out.
Spooky month. Yes.
Spooky month. Yes.
Okay. So, where do you want to take it from here? There's so much information. I mean, I can harp forever just on, watchers and angels that aren't really there. Jen,
They don't have wings?
But I know. No,
Yeah,
there's a lot of people.
It was us that gave them the wings. Now the genius of Arcadia was slightly different because those particular creatures that were half human, half animal, they had wings. But that was to indicate that these things were from the spirit realm. Once something had been given wings, it was from the spirit realm. Much the same as we see the serpent with the wings. This is from beyond the veil. So the wings indicated spirit.
I see. Okay.
And dragons?
Dragons from a Celtic standpoint, dragons were not what we see them from the medieval period. These winged, fire-breathing animals that we tend to see hoarding gold and things like that. From our perspective, from the Celtic perspective, we had giant serpents.
Right.
And the serpent's breath was always poison. And when these things always came around, there was a strong, pungent smell of sulfur.
Yeah.
We get that sulfuric smell also appearing within ufology. We also get it appearing within cryptozoology, within paranormal. Within demons, we tend to find this idea as well. So there have been some suggestions that the sulfur smell is coming from this point at which they break through the realm to get here, and the
Which
sulfur
makes sense.
is the side effect of that.
Wow. So, but to the people who follow archangels, we know what the guardian angels are and its association. Are people, like I say, when we go back to opposites, in religion, is this one of those opposites situations as well?
No, not necessarily, because you see, when we go back far enough, there have been some really good research done there by archaeologists and things like that, and the main archangels that we tend to identify today, Michael, Uriel, all the rest, they originated from 584 BC. So it was Ezekiel that was responsible for bringing them forward, and promoting this monotheistic concept of a one God religion. And the angels didn't exist before that, as what we understand angels to be today. They didn't exist before 584 BC. What they were identified, where they were taken from, was from the Babylonian worship, in which they were identified as planetary gods. And those planetary gods were then reworked and put into servants of the one God.
Sounds a lot like pagan deities and ancient deities and gods of ancient cultures, which were all, now it's a demon.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They got a new skirt, and
New
and,
title at work. Yeah.
Do they have a family tartan too? Or
Yeah. Right. Oh my
oh
God.
my gosh.
but you know,
Alright.
it's interesting though when we look at this particular idea, and especially when we are communicating with these things beyond the veil, understand what you're working with, understand the history behind them, because when we're calling in the likes of this concept that we have of an angel today, what is it then that we're actually calling in? Because there is something in the old Babylonian worship, occult practices, in which if you had a demon that was in your, or a demon that was in your house and was causing trouble, you called in a bigger one.
That's right.
That's crazy
exactly
right
what
now.
we're doing. That's exactly
I've worked
what
around
we're
that
doing.
theory.
Yeah.
And it's crazy thought now.
Yeah.
No, but it can work.
I believe you.
It can. No, but yeah,
Just-
it can work. But
It's
boy,
certain.
you have to have some major knowledge and discipline,
Mhm.
because you don't have the right to just call in. I
Mhm.
mean,
Big-
unless
the
you're
big
a
guns.
practitioner, occult
Big
practitioner
guns.
who knows their stuff,
Yeah,
right? Hence, not me. But
that's a bull, but whatever.
well, no, but it is fascinating information. You know, if you're dealing with a certain group of beings that are being problematic, it's just like calling in the parent to reel in the toddlers, you know, sort of situation. But
Well,
What
the
happens to you
idea,
then?
yeah, the idea that we're calling in these particular beings, of course, especially from their appearance, the gatekeepers.
yeah,
We see this association between the feminine and the serpents. Even biblically, we have the alienation of Eve with the devil.
yeah,
Devil, of course, being this bringer of knowledge who led Eve to the tree of knowledge.
right.
So you've got this serpentine connection with knowledge, and you've got the connection with the feminine,
Yes.
and how that, of course, then fared out over the years was horrific.
Right.
But that's always been there. If we go far enough back, we see that. But
Mhm.
the idea that these mound builders, they moved westward, they came into our part of the world, and they moved across into the Americas as well. You
Right.
still find these mounds in the US, both in North America and South America. You've got these mounds, and you've got an association with the serpent.
Oh yes.
And not only that, but with the new book that I'm writing, the Fruit of the Gods, I've found now the connection to this elusive handbag that appears in the Akkadian wall art over
Yes.
in the Middle East, and also its appearance within the Mayan culture in Central America, where you've got the giant serpent and this person holding on to this handbag. What is the handbag? Well, I think now we know what it is.
That's what I
I-
always ask that question.
I'd be curious for
Yeah.
you know what you have, only because I know someone who is very an aware experiencer, and she says she knows what they are.
Okay. I'm not going to
So
say it because it's
I will talk to her if she says yeah.
No, I'm
go
laughing
ahead
at the
and
way
say
you
it.
said, okay.
I know, but no, I would like to share that with you. I just want to get her permission first, but she's very unaware contactee experiencer, to the point where she can just call them and hitch a ride.
She's credible.
Yeah, she's credible. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. From that standpoint, been validated and shown evidence and all kinds of stuff. So I don't think she would mind my saying anything. I just don't usually pass information around without permission from the source, of course. But
No.
I don't think there'll be a problem. But interested to see what you'll say. Bam, and I'll say, how about this? Bam, and then we can maybe see if there's a connection.
Yeah, I found the answer. If it is the answer, I found it in Sardinia, in the Mediterranean.
Shocker.
No, I keep saying it. It's the
Everything.
largest percentage of centenarians in the world is Sardinia.
And it was there out in the field. There it was.
Yeah.
Now we know what it was.
But look at all the old structures in Sardinia. Like,
yeah.
the mounds and giants that have been found. And I think it's when people say, cradle of civilization, I've heard different, different researchers say it was this area, or it was this area. I think that Sardinia deserves, sort of,
It does. Yeah. I was
yes.
over in Malta 4 years ago,
Yeah.
and I went to the Hypogeum there. I wanted to see it because of the whole reverb of the structure and the vibrations within it, and to see where the layout was and how that tied in with what we were seeing back here in Ireland. But it was absolutely horrific. I don't think I'll ever be back. Because having to go in there and you're not allowed to take photographs, you can't take video, you can't take audio, you're not allowed to stop and ask questions, keep going.
Oh,
So
that's
it's just a visual.
It's just you're just walked through. It's like being in a military regiment. And I said no, because I wanted to experience the place. I wanted to hear the harmonics within the.
That takes time. You can't just run through it. That takes time.
And the cost was phenomenal.
I was just going to ask you, did they charge admission? So then this sounds like a money grabber. Sorry, Malta. That's just wrong.
Yeah, ridiculous.
Yeah, that's just wrong.
wow.
That's the way
You almost have to try to get in with somebody. Do you know any Rosicrucians? Because there's big Rosicrucian
They'll get
community.
you in there.
We know Rosicrucian.
I
I know people in Malta.
we ended up staying on the other island. It wasn't Malta; it was the next Gozo. And I'm aware of the underground tunnel systems and stuff there. That's on both islands.
They have to be careful. Didn't an entire classroom of students and a teacher go missing in some of these tunnels that they're now closed off?
Yeah, that was a myth, unfortunately.
Was it?
Yeah,
It's kind of a relief.
Yeah, on the last day we did find the access point via the ocean or the sea. It was the last day, so we couldn't do anything.
No.
Then thank you, COVID. It came.
Right?
You're the
There's
only
one more
person
thing
who's
to be
ever
able to
said
talk
thank you
about.
with. Oh my gosh.
Wow. Yeah, I think it threw a wrench in for a lot of people.
Yeah.
I haven't been to Europe in 2 stinking years. Like, come on.
3.
God.
Yeah.
No. But at least one of my last vacations or last points was Scotland, France. So it's like, all right, at least I did that. So gosh almighty.
I was just on a beach.
Do you think that Aleister Crowley was practicing the type of occult and magic that he was practicing? Do you think it has anything to do with what we were talking about, being gatekeepers and things of that nature?
Yes, without a shadow of a doubt.
Okay.
I think Crowley himself was using a particular occult practice where he could transfer his soul, his shadow, and that's a particular practice that for the initiated know how to, death is coming, so they prepare. And what you tend to do is you pick a particular inanimate object, like a pen or something like that, and the person that you transfer to tends to be male, tends to be within the family line, and is no more than 10 years of age. And it's a simple process of handing over the gift to the child, and the child takes it. That's it.
Simple. How is it fair to the child?
It was interesting that I think it was several weeks before Crowley died, his son came to see him. His son was 10 years of age, and after Crowley died, the son started suffering from what was like the onset of schizophrenia, which in itself is also a sign of the shadow making its play for the body, because ultimately he who owns the body wins.
Yeah, because shadow work, essentially, it is a form of being able to take over, the physical. Like some people, that's why you always say the term, you almost have to embrace your shadow, learn it, accept your shadow.
Yeah, again, the book itself addresses part of this and looks at the idea of the spirit and the soul, because
Mm.
today we use spirit and soul as a very interchangeable term,
Mhm.
when originally it was not meant to be. There
Mm.
were two different components of
Right.
the system of this trinity. You had the meat suit, then you had the shadow, the soul, and then you had the spirit. The soul's job was to keep the meat suit alive as long as possible for the spirit to exist, to experience. But all of our psychic abilities,
Mhm.
all of them originate within the shadow, the soul.
Yeah. Mm.
And when people say that they've had an encounter with, say, Bigfoot, or they've had this really extreme encounter with a UFO, um, or aliens, whatever the case may be, that within days to weeks after it, they start developing these prophetic gifts, and they're able to almost sense what's coming along, and the other psychic gifts that they never had before. That is actually not the case. What we hypothesize is that this is our shadow, our internal system, stepping forward to the line to try and ensure that this does not happen again.
Right. Right.
The likes of remote viewing and all of that, that's all ability of the shadow to
Huh?
bring
What?
What? Mila was like,
What?
crap, what?
remote viewing.
No,
Yeah.
no, I heard you. I'm
It's
just
the shadow part. She's
Well,
trying to figure out. Right. Why do you think it's part of the shadow? Remote
why?
viewing.
Why? Because that in itself, the way that remote viewing works is the projection of
Right.
us from us through, and time means absolutely nothing for this, and that is an ability of the shadow itself, of the soul, to do that.
Mm.
um, and the effect that our soul can have when we walk into a haunted property, and how it manifests through the physical, is something which is we see within the animal kingdom itself.
Mm.
Uh, this idea that we walk into a building and suddenly the hair stands up in the back of our necks, and we say, "Oh, something's here." That's our shadow warning us and engaging the fight or flight through the physical to let us know, "Be aware, there's another
Mm.
shadow here."
Right. Now, in the book, you make mention of how things that we are eating, for example, refined sugar, how that takes away
Yeah.
that ability.
Yeah, refined sugar has been the Achilles heel to our instinct, to the seat of our psychic ability.
as well as our health.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that can actually, if you have enough soda drinks or whatever before you go to an investigation, you
Mhm.
can actually hinder the body's fight or flight response. You're effectively blinding yourself
Do you,
when you're going to a location, so you don't know what you're getting. You can't hear your instinct anymore. You can't
Right.
hear your psychic. You switch that off physically because of the use of refined sugar. And it's interesting when we go back and we look at particular parts of the calendar from a Celtic perspective, where the veil between the two worlds is thinnest. For instance, May and of course October. Um, and both times, what do we do with our children who are exceptionally sensitive? We fill them full of candy. We blind
Ah.
that's a good point.
It's kind of
very,
like the
very
fluoride thing, isn't
very
it?
creatures who have that ability
Only worse.
to sense everything, and we close them down.
Right.
And
Right.
a lot of people say, well, we teach our kids to do that. Not again, I argue the point on this particular matter, because kids between the ages of 2 and 6, they predominantly work within the theta band rhythm constantly. So they're within that particular brainwave resonance in which they can commune, in which they can enter this place where they see, they hear, they smell, they enter all of this.
Mhm.
Also between the ages of 7 and 13, there's a filter that thickens over the eye that reduces our spectral sensitivity. So
Mhm.
we no longer see as adults what we saw as children. for the most part.
So that makes
Wow.
sense. You know, there's so many theories when it comes to children. One, of course, fluoride, which messes
Oh.
us all up. Thanks for that.
Mhm.
But there's also, changes of energy, puberty, menopause,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
changes us up. A
Mhm.
lot of children, you lose your abilities in
Yes.
and around puberty. But
They do,
now I tend to wonder how much contribution of that is actually diet and eating and calcified pineal gland, all of that sort of stuff.
Mhm. I think that all has its effects on it as well, of
Yeah.
course. But there is a strong physical reaction to this that we must understand as well.
God, bye, buddy frappuccinos.
Really?
Damn it.
I'm okay on the refined sugar part because I'm not a fan, but
Only certain things,
yeah.
A little habitual with some things. I'm funny like that.
Well,
but-
you know what? I find that I've met a lot of people, and I am one of them, who struggle with refined sugar, especially chocolate. And
Chocolate's not refined sugar, Barry, if it's dark. It's not
Well,
refined sugar because then there's no sugar in it whatsoever.
I like milk chocolate.
Oh, yes. Well,
not-
that's because
not
you have Cadbury at your fingertips. That's why. Yes.
Little plug the Cadbury there.
But a lot of people who are sensitive will reach unconsciously to the likes of chocolate because it quietens the information that's being filtered through. But the problem is that in itself can become an addiction. And of course, that has an effect then, especially in the waistline.
Well, and you have to be careful because it's scientifically proven that psychics and mediums, after visions and readings, their blood sugar levels drop significantly, somewhere into like 30%. So I don't know if it's such a bad idea. Maybe go in there without the sugar and then have it when you come back out. But try something else, like maybe an orange, perhaps. Try an orange.
Yeah. Gosh.
A chocolate orange, maybe.
A chocolate.
They
Oh,
have
those
them.
are the
They
best,
have them.
aren't they?
About Christmas time, but they have them.
No, they have them all year now. They have them
There
all
we
year.
go. Just smack
Yeah.
that sucker open, and there you have
Yeah.
the best of both
If
worlds.
you're in the United
So-
States, I'm so sorry for your loss. I know you don't have Cadbury, but in Canada, we are still being supplied by Cadbury.
That's right. I go to the British store. I get the good Cadbury.
Oh, you can get it in our grocery stores now in the international aisle. Just saying.
While we're on the topic of flight or fight, all of that, let's talk about implants,
Yes.
because I know that's probably going to go into a whole other segment and probably roll into the next book you guys are doing. But I really want to address it because it's something that a lot of people, well, at least from doing so many shows, people coming on and talking about experiences with being contactees or abductees or MELAB, things like that, enter implants. So in your opinion, is this something that is man-made or is it extraterrestrial? Do they both do it? What do they do it for? Go. Because when you take away that ability, like you say, you had the 20-second rule. If you don't feel it coming, you don't know what's going on, and you become a prime candidate for this sort of thing. And next thing you know, your whole life, you're just being hunted, right?
Yeah. My personal opinion is that, and this is just my personal opinion.
Okay. We won't hold you to it.
Yeah. The implants are not all as they seem.
Okay.
And the likes of when we do damage, especially as children, we can develop stuff under the skin that can become calcified and everything else and cause a lot of trouble.
Yes.
And we also have to keep in mind the likes of stigmata.
Yes.
Where we believe something enough, we can create that manifest physically. And stigmata is a perfect example of that, because
Really?
stigmata at the beginning was all about the palms of the hands and the soles of the feet being punctured.
And the
then
rib cage.
Then we found out late in the 20th century that, oh, wait a minute, Jesus wasn't nailed through the palms, he was nailed through the wrists.
Yes.
The stigmata moved to the wrists.
Interesting.
I didn't know it moved. I
So-
thought, okay.
Yeah, so the power of the mind is exceptional. And
Manifest your own reality.
yeah, and you know, even within big pharma, you know, we can see the power of the mind when we're taking the sugar pill and see the effect that it can have
Right. Correct.
on curing the body.
Yeah, correct.
So yeah, I'm cautious, very, very cautious of implants. I do hear a lot of the implants that are giving off signals and all the rest.
Mm.
What tends to happen is that when we want more proof of this, these just seem to vanish, seem to disappear. And when we want really detailed laboratory tests, it doesn't seem to manifest. And for the ones
I
that
can
do,
hook you up with people
when
who've got them.
we, well, if they have them and they're
out of the
tested,
body. Like he's a researcher. He's got a whole collection of them that people have had removed.
it sounds very like Daryl Sims.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
You
Hey,
know,
Daryl,
Daryl.
but I also know a lot of contactees.
Yeah, but Andrea
Plug to
Perrin as
Daryl.
well had one come out of her mouth. She
Yeah.
was severely ill, trying to get
Literally
it
knows.
out. She writes about it.
I know
I
all
would,
kinds of
I
people
would,
who have
I would
them.
personally, I would like to see them being tested for us all to know what they are.
Right.
I understand. That's a really good point. Nobody's
true.
ever, that's brilliant, Barry,
Tested them,
because
yeah.
nobody's ever said, well, have you tested them? We are
Mhm.
just in awe that they're out.
Yeah. Let's face it. If we believe that okay, they're putting implants in us, that's okay. And there seems to be this thing. Well, they don't want you to know that they're putting implants in you. Never mind the fact that they're coming into your room at night and stealing you from your bedroom.
Ugh.
Is that not worse than getting jabbed with an
Through
implant?
your ceiling.
But are we talking extraterrestrials or are we
Are we-
talking
Nah.
military abductions?
Are we
No,
talking
no.
government?
Well, what we tend to see
You
now
know?
with modern ufology is that a lot of the technology that is now coming out is ours, and we see a lot of it.
Exactly.
The problem is that our technology is not as shielded as good as what their technology was.
Right.
So
Right.
when we
And
get
they wouldn't
in a
really
100
need that technology. Okay.
yeah, but when we get in within 100 feet of the craft, then that causes problems, because we're seeing now medical reports coming out where I think it is one person in 7, I think that's what it was, or that has been within 100 feet of the modern craft,
Mhm.
dies of cancer.
Is that a modern military craft or an actual?
Yeah, one of ours, one of theirs.
It's our technology that's
Ours.
producing the high amounts of microwave technology and all that other stuff. So if we get close to it, it becomes dangerous.
Wow.
Where that didn't tend to happen 100 years ago.
Because they didn't have any.
They were controlling
Exactly.
it because they were shielded, or they didn't use that type of technology. But we have adapted it. Let's face it, there have been some back engineering, and there also have been some communications that have been going on that have allowed this
Oh
technology.
my God.
That's interesting.
It's very dangerous technology when we get close to it.
See, and then the conspiracy theory mind would be saying, so no wonder they're not putting out that drug for cancer.
Well, it could go down a lot of
I'm not a conspiracy
different
theorist. I'm
routes.
just
No.
trying to understand their point of view. I'm not a theorist. I listen to everybody, and
Yeah.
So would this have to do then with, because I mean, you think implant, you think mind control, scrubbing memories, implanting with new memories.
Oh well, mind control is a thing. The patent office in the United States has already got that technology there. I think from
Yes.
1989 it's already been listed.
Right. There we go.
It was the Navy that were responsible for patenting that technology. The
Right.
voice of God, all of that stuff. So that's
I like that, the voice of God.
Yeah, but the likes of the Tic Tac, we've seen San Diego, of course, coming across our screens with this Tic Tac technology that was flying all over the place at high speeds. But that in itself was a black budget project from the United States Air Force, and the fleet that was encountering this were already kitted out with a brand new weapon system to track high speed phenomena.
Wow.
The same as what they were saying. Now, you're not going to tell your pilots that you're going to be chasing a black budget project. You're not
No.
going to do that.
No,
You
you're
don't
not.
do that.
No, you're not.
And isn't it interesting that recently, with what's going on here in Europe, that when it was announced that the Kremlin can fire a new tactical warhead from Moscow to reach London in 200 seconds, you will want technology that can intercept high-speed objects. Hence, there's our technology.
Look at the new laser weapon that the United States is testing now. But they're saying, oh, but we're not going to be using this for a long time. All right.
It makes me wonder
They're
who had
already-
it before
they're already
them, though.
ahead of what
Yeah.
we know.
There's
It
a
makes me
photo
wonder
of this
who
thing
had it
going.
before.
Yeah,
But what
it's-
country had it before them? There had to be someone. Come on, there's other countries
How
that
about
are
which
farther
alien had
ahead
it
than
before
the
I'd be
United
more
States.
interested in? It's like,
But there's other countries that are much further ahead in military weapons than United States, and we definitely know it's not Canada because we barely have anything. You know.
No. It makes you wonder. It's fascinating. I wish we had more time, but we're going to address this question going back to the sugar thing for you as we slowly get there. Dang it already. So, Amelia, you want to get this?
Yes, I just noticed that, and I pushed my mouse at the same time. I thought I did that.
Oh.
Sorry. Natalie asks, is there a
Sorry.
difference between sugars? Also, children who are exposed to abuse, physical and mental, increase their ability, epigenetic, to process sugar efficiently through adulthood. Sugar equals energy.
Yes, but it's the refined sugar
It's
that's the problem.
Yeah,
Natural
fruit is a
sugar.
different sugar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the natural sugars are absolutely fine. We don't have an issue with
Necessary.
those. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the refined sugar is the thing that interferes with our fight or flight.
Yeah, we
Right.
don't want our children bottoming out.
Yeah. And that interferes with that psychic ability.
No.
Right. But that's
And-
what it's been all the way along, hasn't it?
It's,
Dumb us up.
Well, now if you look at the amount of refined sugar that's being consumed, it has skyrocketed over the last 70 years.
people
Mhm.
don't realize that, that's another show, all of the segment all onto its own. I work in the food industry, and they don't realize that in a lot of your protein products that you think are all protein, there are hidden words like nitrite and nitrate.
Mhm.
And one of those is sugar and one of those is sodium. That does
Yep.
not get counted
Double
in the
whammy.
sodium
Yeah.
sodium section, nor the
Mhm.
sugar section of your nutritional value label. So be
Mhm.
aware of stuff like that. And the old adage, if you can't pronounce it, don't eat it. That's
Hey, but
pretty
now
much
we get to worry about crickets because that is a thing. Somebody sent me a picture of a potato chip or something, and in the ingredients list it said crickets. I'm like,
Ugh,
apparently
it's
cricket
disgusting.
plants are
Well,
starting to
they
emerge. I'm
are
like,
known-
there ain't no stinking cricket. That's
They're
ridiculous.
also known to be in jelly bean colors and
Flour.
oh my gosh, this is all stuff I don't eat.
Colorings.
Those candies, what are they called? The juju, whatever. Those
I don't want to know. Okay.
I
do
know
not want to know.
Michelle's a big jelly bean fanatic.
I love jelly beans.
Yeah.
Only certain ones, but it's probably enough to turn me into a cricket.
I think it's extremely minute, and I'm sure you've probably swallowed a few bugs here and there in your lifetime.
Don't
so you're
talk
okay.
to me. Just don't want to talk about it. I'm
You're
going to
good,
be
you're
in
good.
denial. I can handle the aliens. Just keep the bugs away from me. Especially big alien bugs.
Oh, she said, check your bread. It recently has gone up way 3 or 4 grams per cent. I make bread. I'm just saying, very old school. So a lot of everything that comes out of my kitchen is homemade.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Anyway, Barry, we're at the end of the show, unfortunately. But plug yourself, plug both of you guys, plug the book. Where can they find it? How can they find you? And so on.
The Deception of Gods and Men is available on Amazon.com and is available in hardback, paperback, ebook, and also audiobook. And I found that remarkable because I'm actually dyslexic, so it is fantastic being able to listen to the book. But that ability of being dyslexic also lends me dyslexic thinking, and where you can see the patterns and pull links together, which is what the Deception of Gods and Men fundamentally is really about.
Yes.
And they can also find me on my website at charmstealer.com, where there's some documentaries there and some other books that I've written. And they can also find me on Facebook.
Can you email that to me, please? Because I will put it in when I set up the next show. I will put it all in YouTube.
Sure.
Because I put the links that I had, and I will put that link as well for you so people can seek you out.
Yeah. They do open up that bottom window a lot.
They do, yes. Yeah. And we'll make sure that everything is on the group pages as well.
Thank you.
So, well, thank you.
Oh my God, so much fun.
Absolutely.
Not enough time, though.
But wonderful to be able to connect with people of like mind, because this is all stuff, that at least people who do proper research should know. And to many people, it's going to be a huge what did I just hear? And I highly recommend your book. I can't say it enough, because I think people are really, it's going to have that wow factor, but I think it's going to have that whole, I think I'm awake. I'm having an awakening. I really think it should. It should.
Well, thank you very much. That's very kind to say.
Oh, absolutely true. It's just one of those things that, like I said, I think any researcher within any of these fields should do it, because I can tell that you put a lot of research into this, because I know what it's taken me just to find, there's stuff in here obviously that I haven't, but I looking at a lot of this I already knew, and a lot of it I was still kind of going, like the whole Our Lady thing. I was like, I did not see that coming. I did not see that coming.
Yeah, it's definitely a wait what book. Definitely.
Well, because when you talk about the shining ones, there's no association on an average with some of the stuff that you're finding unless you really dig deep for it. Right? Yeah. So that's just one example of the type of stuff that people can expect, I think, from the book, is that you guys dug deep and referenced, cross-referenced, and it's not just something you plucked out, which is, you can tell when you read the book. So I will be in touch with you with another date, and we will continue on this.
We look forward to it. Thank you.
Of the deception of gods and men. So
definitely.
Yeah. So thank you. And this will air this evening, and then you will hear from me with international numbers, which is what everybody waits for. It's like, yay.
Huge honor for me. Thank you, Barry. Watching you on TV all those years, you have no idea what an incredible moment this is for me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. You're very kind. Now, take care, folks, and enjoy the rest of the day over there.
You as well. Have a great evening.
Good night.
Bye now.
Good night.
Bye.
Gosh, that was just so enlightening. It's like, where do you start? Where do you finish? We've only scratched the surface, guys, of this book, and I highly recommend it. They've got it out there. Amelia and I were made privy to it, and definitely worth the read and some. So I can't plug it enough. And for us to plug it, because you don't hear me like carry on like this very often. We read great books. We've had great authors on it. This one is just from a research standpoint and knowing how the field of both ufology and paranormal, never mind everything else that's in there, just from these two fields alone, could really stand to read this, because there's such an amazing connection between the two fields. So definitely do it. So this is going to, again, guys, it will air live this evening, and Amelia and I will be in chat. And if you guys have any questions, we'll put them up, and the guys will be coming back on, so we can screenshot them, jot them down, and we can definitely ask on their next time on board. So as we near the end of this segment, we'd like to have a big thank you again to both Barry Fitzgerald and Brian Allan. Just both a wealth of information, so delightful to speak to. Big thank you to Folgers Coffee. Huge thank you to Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, Justin Snicker. Remember, wherever you are watching, please subscribe. Follow us, subscribe, join, whatever it takes. Show us that support. We work really hard to bring you guys not just great content and amazing guests. Millie and I are exceptional in our own right, but whatever. We'll just leave that right there. Don't tell me you don't have a good time on our show.
I'm dying here. I was on mute.
That's true, though. Come on. We're fun. God, our Q&A
Yeah.
shows go through the roof. That's gotta
No
be.
kidding.
Gotta say something, people.
No
So-
holds barred on those Q&As. Let me
That's
tell you.
It just shows
Yeah.
you, adds to that exceptional thing. Anyway, if you need to contact us, please, the outer realm contact at gmail.com, the outer realm contact at gmail.com. Tomorrow night, also another amazing first time guest, Charles Lear. This is going to be for you UFO enthusiasts out there, those who go back to the Roswell days. You're going to be getting into amazing information. His book is entitled The Flying Saucer Investigators. So you might get into some blue book on there. You might just get into some really awesome stuff. But as we're nearing these anniversaries and such, and all these disclosures, there's some amazing information coming up, some really great authors. So please check him out. In the meantime, have a good night. By the time you see this, it will be. Good night.